Thanks. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Miriam Russell, the presenter for this webinar today. We titled it to entice you to attend. We titled it How to Write Thesis Statements That Make Your Professors Swoon. And if you write a really effective thesis statement, they may not swoon, but they'll surely be impressed. And this is the time of year when many online courses assign a research paper. And if you are a student in taking advanced level courses and are preparing your planning and finalizing course for an advanced level scholarly research paper to go along with your degree plan work, you are expected to research a debatable issue. However, every scholarly essay or research paper that's a debatable issue starts with an effective thesis statement that states your slant on the topic. In effect, it's the main idea, but in effect, it's a main idea which offers an argument. Hello, Leslie. Welcome. I know what unit you're from. You're our best webinar goer from the Dominican Republic. And Leslie, you can find a little smiley face if you can hear me well enough. You can just use the icon, the smiley face icon, that will communicate to me that you're hearing me. Okay. Now, how do we create an effective thesis statement? You have to think of your side of an argument, because then it provides a focus for your essay. You see, a thesis statement is your assertion. It tells your view or your slant on a topic or your argument. Now, those who say that all writing is argumentative, if you think about it, but for scholarly papers, we need to have you state it clearly, usually at the beginning, in the introduction. Now, let's clear up confusion about terminology. This webinar is about how to create a thesis statement, and it is the difference between that and a thesis is explained here. A thesis statement is a statement or a theory that's put forward as a premise to be maintained or proved. His central thesis is that psychological life is not part of the material world. So that's his main idea, his central thesis, his thesis statement in one sentence. We are not talking about a thesis like a doctoral thesis that is a long essay or a dissertation involving personal research and it's written by a candidate for a college degree like a doctoral thesis or a thesis written by a master's candidate. We are not talking about writing anything like that. We just are looking for one effective sentence that tells the main idea of your paper. Now, if it's a research paper, this is the only time you're going to be able to express your opinion. You're not going to use the word I, but you're just going to state your opinion. You can create an effective thesis statement using something called TQR. I made that up because it consists of the topic, the thesis question, and then your research. So a thesis statement is not a title, it's a sentence. A topic is not a thesis statement either. Your choice for a paper of any sort is analytical in nature. It's an issue or an evaluation or a critique. For example, a topic is family health, and you might want to research the question, what should parents do to feed their families healthy diets? And then you research what is recommended in the literature. Now, is this topic researchable? Okay. It's probably researchable because it is probably not too broad. You're looking for specific methods or specific actions that are effective for parents in providing healthy diets for their families. Therefore, after looking at the research and finding the information, you can come up with a thesis statement as a result of your research. Unlike a topic sentence that you see in the beginning of paragraphs, it needs a point of view, a slant, or an argument. Here are some topics that start off with a broad area and move to the narrow. If it's a topic of wild animals, you can narrow it down to an interest in wolves, and possibly you're someone who believes that wolf populations should be restored. Now you have a narrow enough topic, a topic that's not too broad. Yeah, obviously, if you were you're not going to research wild animals because there's a whole library full of that information, and wolves has shelves in the library. But you might find just a certain limited amount of information on restoring wolf populations. The same with diet. It's a huge topic. But you may want to narrow it down to sugar-laden soft drinks. And how about the issue of banning sugar-laden soft drinks? Now we're still talking about topics. And there's a broad topic about children. Maybe you want to narrow it to preschool programs like for all 3s and 4s. Still, you're in a topic. And sometimes you can go right from a broad topic, like military, to jobs programs for veterans. So to find out, to create your thesis statement, you need to research a question that's researchable. Let's look at this first sentence. Let's think about whether or not that's researchable. Is there a link between hours of television viewing and violent behavior in children aged 8 to 14? All right. Maybe we will take a poll. If you think yes, there's a link, or no, there isn't a link, that doesn't matter. What we want to know is whether or not you think this question is researchable. We don't need to know the answer right now. I wouldn't even know the answer yet because I haven't researched it. If you think it's researchable, you can just click on the check mark and choose yes or no. Well, it should be researchable. It's pretty specific, but it's broad enough to have some debate on it. What about the, okay, thank you. We can I'm afraid I don't know how to turn off that poll. Now, there you go. Thank you. Does McDonald's or Burger King make a better burger? Is this researchable? Well, there's really no concrete evidence, so it's not really researchable, because what does better mean? You know, it's a better tasting, better in nutrition, better value, fewer calories, better for making your kids happy. This question could only become researchable if you define what a better burger is. It might be, does McDonald's or Burger King make a more nutritious burger? And there you'd be able to make it researchable. So you see how you have to start with a researchable question. Is this a researchable question? Do or do not the economies that result from a trash burning plant outweigh the obvious disadvantages? Now, if you think that is a researchable question, let me know by clicking on the check mark, green, or no with the red X. So one thing's yes, and another thing's no. Well, in fact, it really is, because you can find several sides of the argument, and there may be a lot of material on it, but there's enough that you can sort through in a reasonable amount of time and give some fair space to both sides of the argument, and you can decide which part of the argument is more convincing to you, and that will become your thesis statement. So here we've come from the topic to the researchable question to the thesis statement. Here's the topic: health insurance for young adults. Question: is the high cost of insurance, oh my goodness, this isn't written very well, I'll have to change this. Is the high cost of insurance the main reason why young adults go without coverage? There's your question. So is that researchable? Yes. And then the thesis statement would be, although young adults believe they are immortal, the main reason they go without health insurance is the high cost of coverage. So then you would go about to support that statement by supplying information about the high cost of coverage. All right, and then moving to the next slide. So you've made an assertion which is part of the thesis statement. And here are three assertions. Parents should provide proper nutrition for their family. Is that a good thesis statement? Well, now we're getting to the question of, is it just a fact, or is it an opinion, or is it a thesis statement that would be a good main idea for a research paper? Who in the world is going to disagree with this statement? It's pretty much in the realm of fact, isn't it? Let's look at the next question. Parents should limit junk food consumed by their children. Now here we get into the realm of opinion. Notice we have the word should here. Parents should limit junk food consumed by their children. This is not a fact. Therefore, is it a good thesis statement? So let me see what you think about that by clicking on the green arrow. You have two people clicking on the green arrow. And I agree, because this is something that's fairly debatable. You could probably find easily find some information that would agree with this. Now, let's look at the last ones. Parents should never allow their children to have junk food. Are there people who would disagree with that? Quite possibly. So you see, we're looking for a statement that's more than a statement of fact. We're looking for something that has two sides to it. And you're going to prove your side. Now here's a template for a thesis statement you can use. You don't have to use it, because thesis statements should imply or at least include the word should. So to fill in these blanks here, you start off with the subject, wolf populations, and then should, and some people would say it should be restored because wilderness areas need predators. So you've shown that this is not just a fact, but is a slant on the topic. If the word should is missing in your thesis statement, it should be implied if the topic has been researched and if an argument is being made. Now here is the opposite argument. Wolf populations should not be restored because of the danger to nearby ranch populations and farm animals. Maybe more of you would agree with this statement than the other, but at least it's not just a statement of fact, it's a valid argument. So I'm using the words argument and assertion to describe good thesis statements. So let's test a thesis statement. Is it one declarative sentence that answers the thesis question? Is it researchable? Does it imply the word should? Does it contain or imply the word because? Does it summarize the essay contents? Now, it's important to try to create your own thesis statement here. Suppose I gave you a topic. Let's have the topic be college tuition. Okay, John, do you want to use your mic to ask your question?
He's got a question in the chat box, Miriam.
In the chat box. Ooh, I missed it.
He was wondering if essays that explain what a certain chapter is about require a thesis statement.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
Sure, he said, do essays that explain what a certain chapter is about require a thesis statement?
What a certain chapter is about? Well, is the information factual? That would be a main idea. It's not exactly a thesis statement or an argument because I'm assuming that if it's a textbook, it's been pretty much proved.
Yeah, I think you would.
So we're talking about something that has several sides to it.
It's a compilation of textbooks and or essay type books that I am reading and then required to write a 4 to 5 page essay on specific information about the chapter.
You're required to write an essay about a chapter in a book about a certain subject?
Yeah.
Well, I think you can easily come up with a main idea. But in terms of a scholarly research essay, we wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily require some critical thinking where you could have an assertion about the topic, or can you? I mean, give me, and say it loudly or type it for me, give me an example of what the chapter is about. Just, give me a couple of words.
Well, right now I'm writing about social welfare during the Civil War.
See, I only heard, right now I'm writing about, and then I didn't hear the rest.
Social welfare in the Civil War.
Oh, well, that's historical, and I think probably all of those facts are established. So what you do is just summarize the main idea of the chapter as you're required to write an essay. You're probably going to talk about certain aspects of social welfare during the Civil War, right?
So it'd be more of a summarization?
I don't know. Right, right.
Okay, thank you.
It's not an argument. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I believe so.
Great. Okay, good. Now, let's consider college tuition. That's a topic that's, oh, it's pretty big, but I think it's big enough to research. But you have to start off with your own slant on it. So, Dan, if you can hear answers, I think Deanna is Deanna's typing one. That's good. So we're going to create a thesis statement here in this little chat box. I know Deanna just wrote something. So you're right about you are writing it. Okay. So what do you think about college tuition? Schools should lower college tuition because students start their adult life with too much debt. Perfect. That is a very strong, I think, well-written thesis statement. It's one declarative sentence that answers the thesis question. Like what would the thesis question be? Something like, is college tuition too high? Or what should schools do about college tuition? Is it researchable? Yes. And it not only implies the word should, but it's right there. And it contains or implies the word because it's written. And it probably is going to summarize the essay contents, and I could see that you could get a nice 4 or 5 paragraphs to support that. And here's another one from John. College tuition should be reasonable because education is a building block of success. Yes. But then you have to, in your research, you have to link college education to success. And it depends on what your definition of success is. So you would have to define your terms a little bit more, okay? But certainly, philosophically speaking, is this arguable? Is there another side to this? Maybe somebody would say, no, you can get a college education that's not a building block of success. So I think it would probably be a good argument to make. And you're starting college at 50. Good for you. I started my doctoral work in my mid-50s, so I think you're going to enjoy that building block. But sadly, it's expensive. Maybe when you get to be 50, that's when you can afford it. I don't know. So we have 2 very good thesis statements about that. I would like to suggest another topic that is topical, and that is global warming. Can you think of a good thesis statement for global warming? We know it's controversial, and Deanna is going to try it. You don't have to start with the topic word, and she didn't. Very good. Let's see. Is this a one declarative sentence that answers the thesis question? The U.S. should use nuclear energy to prevent further global warming. Is it researchable? Is there an issue here? Is it one side of an argument? Anybody want to respond to that? Yes, John says it's definitely one side of an argument. Certainly, to use nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is debatable, issue as well. And you've got the word should. It's so helpful to think about your thesis statements with that word in it. And certainly you've got the because implied, not written out here. And it's going to summarize the essay contents because you're going to research information that will support your argument in favor of nuclear energy. Now suppose you come up with a question that is not in favor of using nuclear energy for our instead of the fossil fuels. Should you leave that out of your research? Should you include it in some way? I'd like to see everybody's opinion on that by the checkmark poll, please. Can we take a poll on that? We want to know your opinion. 2 people. Okay. Would any? Thank you, Deanna. Thank you. So we're, as I say, everything that you put in your research paper after the thesis statement should be coming from your research sources. All right. Would anyone like to suggest a topic, maybe one you're working on for your research paper? What's a researchable topic? There are a lot of issues around the world today. Solar energy. Deanna, has written. Oh, good. I see these now. I was missing them. John says U.S. should. I've already read that one. Solar energy may be an alternative. So how would you state that as a thesis statement, Deanna? Here it is. Okay, you don't mention solar energy, but Deanna takes the opposite viewpoint. The U.S. should not use nuclear energy to prevent global warming because it's too risky. Okay, and but this solar energy may be an alternative is a sentence, but it's not a good thesis statement yet because we don't have any further reason to say so. Nuclear energy may be an alternative, so we kind of need something added to it. What do we need added to it? Solar energy, what's the word? Maybe. Okay, good. Maybe a good alternative to using fossil fuels. Oh, sorry. So solar energy may be a good alternative to fossil fuels, and that's kind of tentative. It may be. So that we could consider a working thesis statement, so that you can say that and then you can look through the research and come up with something more positive. You might be able to substitute the word should. Solar energy should be a good alternative to using fossil fuels. Okay, very good, John. I'm going to look for it. I wrote that. Dan didn't write that. Okay. All right. So it looks to me like you have a good handle on how to write a thesis statement, how to understand that it starts with a researchable topic, not too broad, not too narrow, and devise a researchable question. You know, what question do you want to answer? Do your research and then attempt to support your opinion, your slant. Right. You get to be, in writing, you get to be the ruler, the emperor. You can say something should be, and then you can go about proving it, because you can find adequate, researchable sources that are scholarly, and that's another issue which we will take up in our next webinar on citing sources. I can't quite come up with the date on that. Dan, do you have that? But yeah, we'll be doing that
I have that.
Month.
That's going to be Monday, November 10th from 6 to 7 p.m.
Okay. Monday, November 10. Is that
from
noon
6 to
or
7.
Is that 6? 6 to 7
Correct.
p.m. So I hope you all come back for that, unless you have some other questions. We'd be happy to answer. Everybody straight on how to write an exceptional thesis statement that will make your professor swoon? Oh, Jana has a question. Thank you. Yeah, the template. Yeah, it makes you write the essentials in your statement, doesn't it? Yeah, it's easy to remember. Very good. Well then, I hope you've all found the time worthwhile today. If you have any further questions, John does. Good. Oh, you're welcome, John. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.